Welcome to another episode of Quick Fics, where I, Drew Schulman, invite a guest on the show to pitch a quick fanfic episode of Supernatural, based on a monster of the week of the guest's choosing. Today, my guest is Jeremy Greer. He covers Supernatural at Monster of the Week, X-Men at Days of Future Cast, and just finished the BBC show Merlin at Still His Kingdom Keeps. I'm actually going to say, I did not know about the X-Men one, and I now need to go binge that one, because I love the X-Men.
Yeah, we started doing and hi Drew, and thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it. We started way back when doing the animated series, and then kind of branched into, so it just became a general Marvel podcast sort of, but with an X-Men focus. So we did like the Avengers cartoon from the 90s, which is horrifying. We've done some other X-Men cartoons, and then lately we've been doing like just kind of cherry picking cool X-Men runs from the entire history of the X-Men. So we kind of bounce around in eras a lot. We did Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force, which is a really, really fun run if you like Rick Remender is a great X-Men writer to begin with, but it's just lots of cool time travel-y, alternate dimensions, cool X-Men character kind of stuff. So highly recommend that. Yeah, we have a good time at the podcast. Come listen. We're raunchy as hell though. I'm just going to warn you.
Oh, super down. I was going to say, in a comic series that has gotten so I don't want to say risque, but has embraced so many kinds of open relationships and weird dynamics. I'm like, you need to be raunchy with that one a little bit.
I don't know how current you are on X-Men comic books. Have you read any of the modern Krakoan era kind of thing? Have you done any of this stuff?
I follow a few content creators, so I have a general knowledge, but haven't read a good X-Men run in a long time. Actually, I'll be very honest.
It's just, you mentioned the open relationship
but
thing.
I was going to say, isn't there a Wolverine and Jean Grey and Cyclops, and they're a full-on thruple or something?
It's heavily implied, and the thing that kicked it all off was in this reboot, the X-Men have a different home base now, and so they were doing at the back of the book they were doing kind of diagrams of wherever this is Cyclops' room, this is Wolverine's room, and there's just a connecting hallway between Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean Grey, and I live for it, dude. It's just so hilarious and wonderful to me.
I love that kind of stuff, and I love how they've just embraced it. Good for them.
Cyclops just being it's gonna happen. I might as well just get in on it. I can't stop these two from lusting after each other. Let me be in the middle, I guess. It's just fantastic for me.
Oh my God. The ultimate, I'm not gonna get cuckolded. I'm gonna join in. It's a throuple. They want me here, or so I believe.
I'm definitely not on the side of the bed.
Oh, and you know it's the thing where it started with him just watching, and now it's just Jean Grey sitting there being like, really guys? Do I get a turn?
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah.
We have gone so off the rails, but that's the way this show works. I like this.
Everybody in the X-Men is bi or gay. That's the thing that we need to remember.
Fucking pan pride over here. So on that note, what in this little fanfic of ours today do we have the brothers facing off against?
So I went back and forth on this a lot. And I want to throw out, just in case she listens to this, I asked my wife, I gave her my idea and was like, what do you think? And she was like, is this a funny podcast? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And she's like, well, you should do death and taxes because they fought death, but now they can fight taxes. I want to see the Winchester's tax returns. And I was like, well, that's a great idea. I don't know if I can do that for 30 minutes because you should do that for 30 minutes. So my idea is to do Walter O'Dim or Randall Flagg from the Stephen King Dark Tower universe. I don't know. Are you familiar with the Dark Tower at all? Am I?
I'll be honest. It's an embarrassing blank spot in my nerd history. I know it well, but not the series. Is he not a taxman or a tax collector?
Well, he's many things, Drew.
Okay.
He's been many things. I'm going to do my best to talk about Walter in a way that doesn't spoil anything about the Dark Tower, or The Stand, or Wind Through the Keyhole, or Eyes of the Dragon, or any other The Stand. He was kind of, if you're a Stephen King fan, and I kind of grew up reading Stephen King books, it very quickly became apparent he was the overarching villain of everything. At some point you started realizing Randall Flagg is this dude in The Stand who was gathering all the bad people up to do bad things after the apocalypse virus. And then he's also the bad guy in the Dark Tower series and this other book, and he's also kind of doing machinations in the background in these other books. So he becomes this overarching kind of terrifying figure. Specifically, I like Walter O'Dim because this is like the playful trickster magician side of Randall Flagg, which he has like a bunch of different faces and a bunch of different names throughout the millennia, and he kind of bounces between universes. And I think it's a really really good foil for the boys, specifically because of that. I feel like with Supernatural, and then I'm not only going to try not to spoil anything about the Dark Tower, but also anything past season 6 of Supernatural.
I put you in a tight spot. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. This is actually I'm exercising my podcast muscles. I feel like the boys very specifically attract the wrong kind of attention because they're too good. And I guess specifically thinking of like their meetups with Death, where like if you met Death and he knew your name and was like, "Hey, Dean Winchester," you'd be like, "I am terrified." Like you shouldn't be that noticeable to any of these like cosmic beings. And Walter/Randall Flagg, I think, would like notice Sam and Dean like killing monsters and doing stuff and be like, they seem to be like protected from on high. I don't know how they're doing all of this stuff. Like they have subverted the apocalypse somehow. And I am going to very specifically fuck with those two boys. And his power set is like a power set, like a giant nerd. I guess we talked about X-Men and now I'm talking
I was gonna say, like, that's like for once the proper terminology. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm reading trading cards right now. I'm bringing out my X-Men trading cards and we're just going to talk about.
I think you're gonna say you have like the stand trading cards, and I'm like, now I really need to see these.
Oh, that would be so very cool. So extremely cool. But he's, a magician. He can shapeshift. He can kind of melt into the background of things. He can do like classical spells. He knows a lot about the inner workings of the universe in ways that maybe like normal people don't really understand. And I feel like he would like specifically get to the boys and be like, I'm going to screw with you two guys in like the worst way possible. Very similar to the Trickster and like, Mystery Spot or something, or not Mystery Spot.
That's the vibe I was getting, was like the Mystery Spot kind of.
Okay,
no,
yeah.
You're right, it's not Mystery Spot. It's what are all the other Trickster episodes are not just.
Oh no, I was thinking.
Right
I am thinking Mystery Spot. That's the one where Dean dies over and over again. Yeah,
you're right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
My brain was. I was going back to the previous Trickster episode, which I can't remember the title of from the previous season.
Yeah, the French Mistake is the one that I always think is the Trickster, but turns out like it's an angel or something. So
but I was going to say, like, I feel like that would be a really great opportunity for a character who actually, from what you've described, can travel different dimensions. That to him, that's something very normal, or he's able to interact with them in the other dimensions and kind of like bring over that knowledge. So he's like a step up from just like the Trickster/Loki.
Exactly. Yeah, and he also has. And this is brought up a few times throughout several different books. He seems to have like a very like workman-like knowledge of monsters in general and like the random niche magic of particular areas or cultures, if that makes sense. This is more of a Dark Tower thing, but I feel like the boys really specialize in that stuff. Like Sam can get on the lore, and it's like, okay, we're in this place, we need to learn what do you guys call the library? Like they go to another universe, and he's like, what do you call a library? I need one of those. Like what do you call a book in this magical green skied world? I need to find a book to find out how to fight this guy, and I think it would be really fun. Like I think if you made him an overarching villain for a season, you could get really crazy with the writing. Like you could bring in multiple universes, you could bring in weird little monsters, and every single thing I think the boys would be able to rise to. Like they would be able to triumph eventually. And very specifically, I think that they would like have a long struggling journey to get there. So in my mind, if we're writing this fanfic, like there's the opening thing where you're like exposed to what seems like this all-powerful godlike being.
Yeah.
And then like the dark middle chapter where he's like divided them up against each other. In my mind, I really want like the found family. And I'm not going to mention everybody, but like some of our favorites that we've seen throughout the series be like sided with Sam and sided with Dean, like a real brother versus brother type thing. And then the triumphant climactic third chapter, like this back end of the season where everybody comes together and they finally got the plan and they're going to take him down. I don't know if I just
this. I was even gonna say, like, I even see a part of it too of like maybe when they first meet him, he like joins them and they realize how much of an asset he is, and like gets like kind of too into their like relationship.
Yeah.
Like he becomes part of the found family, so he can like destroy it from the inside. Like not even like intentionally. Like I feel like the way you describe him, it doesn't feel like he'd be doing this like maliciously. He'd have like he'd have like an end goal, whatever it might be, and he needs certain things, and it happens to break them up. And like it like it would be. I get a very like that kind of. I'm trying to think of a good example here. I'm sure you'll come up with one because comics
he's definitely
always
like
do it.
chaotic evil mindset, right? Like he's like
The villain. You almost kind of go like, I mean, I know you're wrong, but like, are you really that wrong? Like, I think we've all seen Magneto beat up a few Nazis and go like, is he really the bad guy?
I still rock the my Magneto made some valid points shirt from the Explain the X-Men podcast. So I wear that in public, so I'm down with talking about some Magneto stuff.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, exactly right. I love the idea of him kind of partnering with the boys at first, because there's that whole thing that happens in Supernatural of and you may have seen some of this. I don't remember specifically where this comes up, but the boys have a lot of conversations around like, we hunt monsters. No, we don't. We hunt evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is it okay to partner with a lesser evil to kill a bigger evil? And like those kind of questions of morality and what it means to be a hunter, what it means to be, ethically hunt monsters, like all that kind of stuff is really fun. And him joining side, like even though knowing that he's kind of weird, and then Walter being, he's described sometimes as just an agent of chaos, of just like, he may not have an end goal, but he just wants to kind of fuck with people and see what happens. Like just tip over the barrel and see where it falls and explodes. And that would work really well with just blowing up Sam and Dean's whatever they have of a life right now and whatever season that they're in of the show.
And that's like, because that's the thing too. I feel like every time, like I mean, like that's every villain in every show, and in Supernatural is by no means exempt from it. Like every villain has what they want, the reason they're being a villain. Like even if it's the smallest of just like, our species needs to survive, so we have to eat some babies. But like to go up against something that literally just goes like, oh no, there's no like end goal in sight. I'm just doing this because I want to see where things go. Not even like for my amusement, but just because like the universe is random chaos and I need to see what random chaos happens.
Exactly. Yeah. Like not even like chaotic evil, I guess at that point. Like I guess the alignment is even chaotic neutral of just like, I want to push people around and want to move pieces around on the chessboard and see what happens. And like, the guy at the nuclear facility that's just pushing buttons. Like I don't care. Like I may just shut it down. I have no idea, but I just want to see, I want to see the dials go red and see what happens from there.
That is such an interesting villain, because I think it gives you so much room to play with. Like I was gonna say when you first described him to me, that like, I know the goal of this is to kind of do like a one-off episode, but this really feels like it'd be a longer arc, and I'm totally on board with that. Oh, but the idea of like this overarching character like this, I love this.
And it would be really fun to bring in, I think at that point, Supernatural plays with this from time to time, but like older hunters. You've seen Rufus, right? Rufus shows up in season 6 somewhere.
We've unfortunately seen Rufus pass away already. So.
Oh, that's right. That was the last episode of Carrie and Wayward I listened to. So okay, now I'm up to date. So yeah, they've played with like the idea of hunting being a profession that's not relatively new, that's been going on for a while, and I love that because I love like that historical fiction in my fictional universes. But I would also love like Bobby being like, well, I encountered a character just like Bobby being suspicious because Walter reminds him of somebody that like his grandpa wrote in a hunter journal about or something, right? Like just all of the like sneaking suspicion. It's basically everything that I wanted Secret Invasion to be, but Secret Invasion just completely dropped the ball on. But like everyone kind of distrusting it, but also going along with it, and then kind of getting into fights with each other until like an ultimate like schism. Not to use more X-Men terminology, I'm sorry. We're just on this train now, and I can't stop. But like. And then exactly at the end, like coming together, and I won't spoil anything that happens to Walter / Randall Flagg. There are ways to kill him. Let's just say that, and he's hiding something about himself that is a weakness. He was very poorly betrayed in the Dark Tower movie by Matthew McConaughey.
I very luckily did not see that, and have now been made very clear that I shan't ever.
Oh, I'll tell you what, man, it's a horrible, horrible, horrible movie.
Is he portrayed in the movie though, or?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So he's the main bad dude in that, as going up against Idris Elba. And he was also in they've done several Stand adaptations now. TV shows. I found the one from the like late 80s, early 90s, the best one. It's got some real like, wow, how did you get all these people on a TV show miniseries energy? But the most recent one was actually pretty decent as well, as far as spooky times. It just kind of shits the bed overall, but it still like gives you some spooky times. But yeah, I think if you put them against the boys, I just think that they would have a good time. I think they would eventually figure out the one, you know, the one little weakness that he has, and then they would also figure out ways to counter, you know, his magic of being able to travel in weird ways. He has some like time traveling stuff to him as well, like all kinds of like weird stuff. And I think he would do stuff like summon a Baba Yaga against him. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe not a Baba Yaga specifically, but like something strange, like just to give the boys something to do so that they're not focused on him. And I just
even
think
like them finding out after a really like rough hunt, they're beaten. They're at the end of their like, we can't believe we made it out of that one. And him just being like, yeah, no, I really like, I knew we would be able to do it, but like I should have maybe gone like one level lower on whatever I summoned. And then being like, excuse me? And like not even like, I slipped up. Like, oh no, I made that happen because I wanted to go hunt it. Like I thought it would be fun.
Yeah, I wanted to go on a trip. Yeah, you guys were bored. You guys got girlfriends. I couldn't have that. Like I wanted to go on a hunting trip.
I love the idea of them having like, I mean, I guess the cliche is like he joins them, he's great, hunts are better, and then the realization like, oh no, hunts are getting harder because he's making them harder because he wants a challenge, and then he realizes like the ultimate challenge would be to screw with us. And then we become what he's hunting, so it becomes like then he tears us apart. Oh my god!
Mm-hmm. And then here's the fun thing. Here's the like running joke for most of the season that I think would be like super serious, but also very funny every time it happened.
What?
Because we haven't talked about our third member of Team Free Will, which is Castiel,
of course,
the Angel of Thursdays, who is, you know, older. He's like millennia old, right? And he would probably know this guy. So like my idea of a running joke is every time that Castiel shows up, or every time they call Castiel, Walter just kind of slips out, and they're like look around and they're like, wait, where did he go? And like they're telling Castiel, yeah, we got this new friend. He's like, well, where is he, Dean? And like they just can't. But it takes until like maybe like the 20th episode or like the 18th of a 22 episode series, like before Castiel finally sees the guy. And he's like, Dean, no, you don't know who you're messing with. And I just think it would be really funny. Every episode, Castiel shows up just barely missing Walter. Would be very funny.
I love that. It's such a cast move too, of just like the being like, out of the loop a little bit, but that would also just work towards the dividing them thing. Like I don't think he would assume they're lying, but I think he'd be like, there's clearly something going on that I'm not a part of, or am I being like ostracized for some reason? Like, what is it about me right now? Like it would very much make Cass go from being the outsider to being even more of an outsider.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then like calling Castiel up and being like, hey, do you know where I can get like a unicorn horn? He's like, what, Dean, why do you need a unicorn horn? Like it's just that kind of like, who told you need this object? Like all that kind of stuff I think would be super, super fun. I love when they play Castiel for comedy. Like it happens throughout the series.
So good.
But,
he is
it's so great.
is my idol when it comes to like acting chops. Like just the man is flawless.
Oh, there's some stuff that I will not spoil for you, where it's one of those like Inception acting moments where he's acting as blah blah. They kind of like the Mystery Spot thing, kind of like the French Mistake, where he's Castiel, like he's Misha Collins acting like he's Castiel as Misha Collins. Like it's one of those just kind of spiral situations. He does that several times throughout the series, and it just makes me love him every single time I see it.
Oh, I know. Every time Cass gets like a starring role, even towards the end of the season, which by now people have heard, but you haven't yet, Time Shenanigans, like he becomes so much darker and more serious of a character that it's like, it's like such a shock to me. So to see kind of like to play with that in this, I think is such a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I think it would be super fun. And then it really, you could just get any of the found family in there, right? Like you could have everybody come in for an episode.
And again, we're talking about a guy who can like jump dimensions and like fuck around this much, like he can pull people who have died from like other dimensions where they're still alive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, hey, here's your dad from a dimension where he never hunted or something, right?
Oh,
like,
I'm waiting for the Spider-Verse of Sam's.
Man, there's a moment. There's a moment later that you were. I'm just gonna try to remember that we had this conversation, and then like 6 years, send you a text message and be like, "This was the moment that I wanted to." Da, da, da.
Welcome to Mary. 90% of the time we record.
Oh, I know. I listen to the podcast and Mary says stuff, and it just flies right over your head, and like I can hear the collective shouts of Supernatural fans throughout listening in their cars every time it happens. It's so good.
I truly find that so funny. I hear those stories and I die. Oh man,
so good.
I love this as a concept. I love this as a character. I will say it's been on my bucket list for a while, and I'm kind of dedicating to like more reading time, by which I mean graphic novels. And I am looking at picking up. I know they do the Dark Towers as a graphic novel, and it's been on my list for a while. So you may have just knocked it up a few notches.
It's the first Dark Tower novel actually covers the fourth book, which is it's kind of a weird story. It's a story within a story, which Stephen King loves to do. So it's a wrapper of like, this is what's happening in the fourth book. And then the majority of the story is all prequel stuff. So it's all like where the gunslinger kind of came from, like where he encountered some of these characters and things that you've been seeing for the last 3 books, which was a real kick in the nuts because there was probably a decade after a huge cliffhanger on the 3rd book where he just didn't release the 4th book. So I remember buying my mom the 3rd book for like Mother's Day or something as a child. And it wasn't till I was either 17 or 18 that the 4th book came out. Like it was close to, it might have been even over a decade. And it was just like to pick it up and to have like 10% be plot and then like 90% be this like set in the Old West prequel. I was like, and it's great. Like I'm reading it nowadays. I love it. But at the time I was like, give me more of the plot. What's been happening? But yeah, so I would recommend reading them. I think the first 3 are just absolutely flawless. I think Stephen King does that egregious thing where he writes black characters and black character voices, and he doesn't really earn that. But so there's some of that stuff, but like also like he was just on a lot of cocaine. Like we forgive Stephen King for taking a lot of cocaine.
Had a weird history. I'm actually heading up to Maine in a few days. Maybe he'll hit me with the truck.
Oh, excellent! Yeah.
haven't met him yet. I'm hoping one day, and hopefully no truck hitting involved.
Probably my only Family Guy joke that I think is still funny from when I was watching Family Guy is the one where somebody hits Stephen King with a van and they're like, oh my god, I hit Stephen King. Like, that's not Stephen King, that's Dean Koontz. He's like, oh, and they back over Dean Koontz several times.
Yes,
ouch.
I remember that. I think the other Stephen King joke is like he's gonna take a break for an interview and he turns around and goes, that was a nice break, and goes right back to the typewriter. Like his break is just to say that was a nice break, goes back to writing.
I love there's an interview with George R.R. Martin and Stephen King where George is just like, how the hell do you do it? And he's like, man, I just get up and write. Like that's the only answer that he has. I just put in the pages. They're good pages or bad pages. I don't care. I just make the pages.
I will say that is as someone who writes very on the side, like that is the advice I've always been given, is just like sit down and write. What was it? You only have so many good stories in you, so get the bad ones out now. I think that was a Neil Gaiman line. I could be misquoting that one, so
could have been. That sounds like Gaiman, definitely.
So I definitely want to ask before we wrap up today, do you have someone in mind to play this villain if they were to be cast in a Supernatural? And again, don't worry about time or heck even... regardless of the time jumping and dimension hopping shenanigans, living, dead, current, old, future, past, anyone. I'm just... Who would you see in this role?
I was 100% not prepared for the question, and the person that immediately popped into my brain was Walter Goggins. And now I can't get rid of it. Now I just think that's the guy. that's just the guy.
You know what? That's I think the best way to answer this question. Don't overthink it. Just whose image do you see? I like that. I think that's a good pick. Like I was trying to think, like again, only knowing him from what you've explained, and like I could see Goggins in it. I was trying to think like. Maybe a young, like, who did I just have a second? I was going to say was, oh my god, Picard. Holy crap! Why am I having Ian McKellen?
Ian McKellen.
Yes,
okay.
A young Ian McKellen would be why I went to Picard there.
Yeah, you went there because they were together basically, but yeah, we were talking about Magneto earlier, so that's
there we go. That's where
Ian
McKellen.
Was. McKellen. I could see young Ian McKellen, or hey, best of both worlds, old Ian McKellen, young Walter Goggins, just mix it up a little bit because he does do some weird like shapeshifty stuff, so that would be super fun.
Oh my god, have him be a different actor every episode, like Doctor Who,
dude,
but on
too
crack.
much, too much.
Just
That
like
would be
how
too
many
much.
how many great actors and actresses can we get to cast for the same character?
I feel like that.
Episode. Way too
Yeah,
much,
that would. Yeah, that would be because then you could get like he could turn into a woman, and like we could have like a whole great cast coming in from that direction. Oh, that'd be super fun. Yeah, I'm down.
Oh, for sure. Before we let you go, do you want to plug anything else? I know at the top of the show I gave a few lists, but if you have anywhere else people can find you online or anything else you want to shout out?
That's pretty much it. If you like the supernatural, if you like Carrie and Wayward, you will. There's a 50-50 shot you'll like Monster of the Week. Chris and I have covered all of the episodes. So if you're looking for a podcast that has covered every single episode of the TV show Supernatural, we are the one that did it. We're currently covering the Winchesters, which is the Supernatural prequel, over at the Monster of the Week feed. So I think that's probably the most relevant thing to mention to your listeners. And yeah, we talked about the X-Men, daysoffuturecast.com. You can find all of those episodes. We do comic books and TV shows and movies, all related to Marvel or the X-Men. And then, yeah, we just wrapped on Merlin, which if you're fiending for something that scratches some supernatural vibes, I would highly recommend Merlin. Merlin is a surprisingly good companion to the show Supernatural. It's got a controversial ending. It's got two guys that are definitely in love and everybody believes it but them. It's got magic. It's got big floppy ears. I'm pretty sure Supernatural has that somewhere, I'm sure. It's got a jock. It's got weird old men. So that seems like it's pretty much just Supernatural but set in Britain. So yeah. But that's it. You can find me online at like I guess Twitter, JG Greer, but I'm not really on Twitter anymore because
Probably
Twitter's
better for
Twitter.
all of us.
You can look me up on like Blue Sky, I guess. That's a thing. I don't know if people are doing that. But yeah.
Oh yeah, don't worry. We have to change our entire outro for all the new bullshit.
Oh, I hate it, dude. I hate it so much. I think we have a link tree off of Monster of the Week, so you could go there and
that's usually the best. That's what we use for ours. Is the best.
Yeah, find me and Chris that way. My co-host Chris on the Monster of the Week podcast. So.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you very much for an interesting character. I may have to have you back on because I now want to see the brothers fight taxes also.
I'm gonna get you. I'll get my wife to come on. I'll get Autumn to come on so she can tell you about all of their write-offs. That Dean would be like, "Oh, it's a write-off. It's a write-off."
I'm so down for that. Legitimately,
it would be that exact scene from Schitt's Creek, right?
Yes, I was gonna say it's exactly what my brain went. It's a write-off.
It's a write-off, Sam.
You write it off.
What do you think a write-off is, Dean? Says Sam Winchester.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a delight.
You've been listening to a Carrying Wayward minisode. We hope you enjoyed, and please let us know what you thought on Twitter, Instagram, Hive, YouTube, or really any social media at this point using @CarryingWayward. Until next time, carry on our wayward friends.